Week 8 is here, and so is Gino the Gen and PPL Live, ready to recap Week 7, get us into Week 8, and prepare us for the home stretch as we're over halfway through the season and already at the end of interconference warfare. Let's give you a quick recap of Week 7 action. The United players, the Destroyers, stampede the Argonauts behind the Broncos D on Thursday night as they defeat the Argo 174 to 134. The Baby Gas team makes it 3 in a row as they defeat Appease the Gods in a close matchup led by Matt Ryan on Monday night, 104 to 100. The Mean Machine scores a huge 160 points as Kareem Hunt led the way against Big C's Comeback Kids. Patty's Twins falls to squad underestimated in the Prestige matchup of the week, 122 to 69, and the Gaff Attack keeps up his winning ways, scoring 151 to only for the Bosses game 124. Alrighty, Week 7 is in the books. We're going to get ready for Week 8, and congratulations to our Week 7 Leave No Doubt Player of the Week, Kareem Hunt. Kareem was the man on Sunday Night Football, running for 86 yards, scoring 3 total touchdowns, and catching 55 yards in receptions as the Mean Machine defeated Big C's Comeback Kids in a very, very impressive performance. Segueing us into our first matchup of the week, Old School Bad Blood in the PPL as the Mean Machine takes on Appease the Gods. Alrighty, this matchup is a rematch of Pantheon Cup 6, in which the Mean Machine won their only Pantheon Cup title. Coming into this matchup, you got great quarterback play at the top, Andrew Luck and Drew Brees, two of the most prolific passers in the game. I believe those two guys are both due for big ones. I think that Drew Brees is going to go into Minnesota and play a really good game on the road, and I believe Andrew Luck is going to do the same in Oakland. Both quarterbacks, I believe, will cancel each other out. Now, on the Machine side, they are souped up at the running back position. Kamara and Hunt is probably the best 1-2 punch in the league right now. These guys are week in and week out, two of the most reliable guys that you can have. Of course, on Kamara's end, a little bit of his production slowed down with the return of Mark Ingram. But Kamara's still a guy that you'd rather have than not, and I still believe that he's going to have a big impact. Kareem Hunt is continuing to move up the stock watch. I mean, Kareem is the number 4 running back in the PPL right now. Back-to-back 30-point performances is nothing to sneeze at. Of course, these were his best 2 performances of the season, and it's coming probably at the right time for the Mean Machine as they're getting towards the end of interconference warfare, and they're going to have to go back into the Alpha Conference in hopes of winning the Alpha Conference title. Mike Evans has been good but not great this year. I'm sure it's been a huge disappointment to ATG. As he's been a guy that, they discovered as a rookie. He has some huge seasons for ATG, helped them get to the Omega title a few times. So Mike Evans not producing is something that is not producing at the level that one would expect, is probably something that is a bugaboo to the Appease the Gods. Now, Joe Mixon continues to be a very, very steady performer. He didn't have a good game last week, but I just like the way he's used in the Cincinnati offense, and I believe that he could play a big role in this matchup if ATG can keep it close. Now, Rob Gronkowski was out last week. Looks like he's going to get back in the lineup for Monday Night Football. He tends to play well against the Buffalo Bills. I've said this for years. He plays well against them is because he's a Buffalo native. So Gronk gets his homecoming this week on Monday Night Football, and I think he's going to play huge. Lamar Miller's probably a guy that needs to get back in the lineup just based on the fact that he's going to get touches in an offense that can move. So Miller's a guy that ATG wants to look at on their end. That being said, I've loved what the Machine's been doing all year long. Philip Lindsay's a great play. I also like even some guys on the bench that they would have an option with. Mitchell Trubisky, John Brown, even Matthew Breida. So, I mean, this matchup screens the Mean Machine. I think I'm going to make the Mean Machine the lock of the week. I've got the Mean Machine winning this matchup 134 to 118. Moving on to our next matchup, we have Only for the Boss taking on Patty's Twins. Alrighty, the Boss couldn't get it done last Monday night. The Gaff attack was very, very strong last week, putting up a very, very impressive week with 150 points. But only for the Boss wasn't bad. They put up 120 plus, and they had a solid week. Now, Stephon Diggs was a guy that we talked up last week. We expected a big game from him. But it just looks like Kirk Cousins is completely enamored with Adam Thielen, and they're producing together, so there's no reason to stop going where things work. Does that mean that Diggs is possibly due for a big matchup? Perhaps. But, you can't just continue to wait on a guy just because he is due. A lot of times you just got to start showing up. Obviously, the Boss's other receivers, Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and Sammy Watkins, are all Kansas City Chiefs. They get a decent matchup with Denver. Denver's defense is better. At least they showed last week. They're when they want to be, they can be very, very stifling and be very, very strong. That being said, they are on the road in Kansas City. The Chiefs did handle them on Monday night in Denver, and the Chiefs are looking, pretty strong. Now on the Twins side, Aaron Rodgers returns to the lineup. Jared Goff, it looked like it would be an exciting play. It just wasn't the play that the Twins expected, as he only put up about 14 points. But getting Aaron Rodgers back is huge because he's going to have to throw, and he's going to be playing from behind against the Rams. That could be a huge benefit for the Twins. They are desperate for a win right now. They've lost 2 straight, and they're falling to the back of the pack in the Omega Conference, something that they are going to try to avoid. Now, David Johnson has continued to be a disappointment. The Jalen Richard pickup, I like it because I think the Raiders will be playing from behind a lot. And I think that Doug Martin, while he will be the lead back, Richard is going to be the guy catching the bulk of the passes, being that they will probably be behind in this game and in future weeks. Now, AB, he's continued to cede some production to Juju Smith-Schuster, and it's because Schuster's a player. Now, Brown, he's still capable of having that huge game. He had a big game against Cincinnati, and he had an even bigger game against Atlanta. But those are on 5 and 6 catches. We were used to AB getting 9 and 10 catches a week, and that's just simply not happening. Greg Olsen got into the end zone, but he's still not a guy that you can really just hang your hat on. And the Twins are, they're playing some matchups at the defense and coach position. That being said, I like the only for the Boss. The Boss's big chiefing has been pretty impressive. They're one of the high scoring teams in the league, and they continue to score at a high rate. That being said, I think that their opponent is not worth fearing. I've got the Boss winning this matchup, 129 to 112. Moving on to our next matchup, we have the Argonauts taking on Big C's Comeback Kids. Alrighty, here we go with this matchup. The Argonauts coming off of an upset loss to the United Players. They had no answer for the Denver Bronco defense. When a defense puts up about 30-something points, it's going to be pretty tough to come back from. And then the who's who didn't show up. Ezekiel Elliott only had about 5 points. Julio Jones on Monday Night Football, he continues to produce, but he's not getting into the end zone. And Julian Edelman and A.J. Green were good, but not great last week. Now, the Nick Chubb pickup was one the Argo thought would be a big play. The guy had a very, very large average per carry, so it was understandable that the Argonauts would go there. But in the end, it probably wasn't the best play, judging by how everything turned out. Carson Wentz, obviously, there seems to be a ceiling on that Philadelphia offense this year, something that wasn't there this year. The big plays don't come. They have to methodically move the ball down the field, and that's really affecting Carson Wentz's ceiling. While he's doing well and he's putting up decent point production, he doesn't have that very big boom potential that he had last season. Now, on the Comeback Kids side, they were playing the matchups last week. It didn't quite work out for them. They've had a lot of bad luck on their roster, and they haven't been very active. Those two things put together are the reason why they're 1-6. Deshaun Watson was benched last week for Joe Flacco. But I do like Kenyon Drake on Thursday night. I think that he's a very, very good running back. Had a 54-yard touchdown run last week, and he's a good player. He's just not a guy who's able to get enough opportunities. Looking at his carries, he's getting 6 carries in a game and 4 catches. He's only getting about 10 touches a game. That's just really not going to get it done for the Comeback Kids. Now, Jarvis Landry continues to be a guy that has value. The comeback kids actually got Jarvis Landry from the Argonauts in a trade a few years back, and he's been a viable option for them ever since. Now, Alshon Jeffrey is going to play a big role in this matchup, as will the coach and kicker, because the Argonauts have the quarterback. So the Philadelphia matchup with the Jacksonville Jaguars in London will play a big part in this matchup, being that the comeback kids are pretty Eagle dependent. That being said, I think the kids will make a few adjustments, like at the tight end position and at other places, and they'll probably put Watson back in the lineup. They'll get Watson and Ingram back in the lineup. But the Argonauts still look like the stronger team, and they need a bounce-back win, especially sitting at third place in the Alpha Conference. I have the Argonauts winning this matchup 125-99. I think the Argonauts win this one going away. The kids may not show to be much of a threat. Moving on to our Prestige doubleheader. Yes, this week we are going to go with double headers in the Prestige matchup of the week. All four teams deserve some shine, and they're going to get it. We're going to start with our first Prestige matchup of the week. The Baby Gas team versus the Gaff Attack. The two hottest teams in the PPL clash in this huge matchup as the Baby Gas team look to get back to 500, and the Gaff Attack look to keep the pole position in the PPL. On the BGT side, Matt Ryan will not be available, but they go back to Cam Newton, who is a very, very viable option for them. The problem that's been there for the Baby Gas team is that Dalvin Cook is out this week. They're going to have to replace the running back position if they're going to have a chance in this matchup against the Gaff. Melvin Gordon is on a bye and Cook is injured, leaving only Mark Ingram. So the Baby Gas team needs some help at the running back position. And Mark Ingram is a guy who I think can have an impact in this matchup, being that the Minnesota game will probably be pretty tight. And I expect the Saints to try to lean on the running game, and Mark Ingram is a huge part of that. T.Y. Hilton getting back into the mix was huge for the Baby Gas team last week. I believe he caught 2 touchdowns, which was a huge part of that win for the BGT, as they only were able to sneak by appease the gods by 4 points. I think T.Y. Hilton is able to put together another huge game against that Raiders secondary, and things will go good. Now, where this matchup gets interesting is with the Rams situation. The Gaff is pretty Ram dependent. He's got Gurley, he's got Cooks, and he's got the L.A. Rams defense. Now, the BGT has Robert Woods. If Robert Woods somehow comes up with a huge game, and that's able to limit Brandon Cooks and Todd Gurley's production, that could be a huge swing for the Baby Gas team. That being said, I just don't see it. The Gaff Attack has been the best team in the league this season. They're 6-1, and right now they do lead the league in scoring. Hopkins, there's been no answer for him. Gurley, there is no answer for. And Smith-Schuster comes back into the lineup along with Zach Ertz and Brandon Cooks. This one looks screaming the Gaff Attack. I got the Gaff winning 140-122. I think this matchup gets very, very high scoring. Moving on to our final Prestige matchup of the week. We've got the two biggest surprises in the PPO squaring off as Squad Underestimated of the Alpha Conference takes on the United Play as the Destroyers of Omega. Alrighty, the final matchup of the weekend, we got Tom Brady leading the United Players into war as they come off of a huge upset victory. That Broncos D was highly, highly impressive for the United Players, putting up a 33-point effort. I mean, you just really, there's no way you can predict that. And that really put the United Players in a very, very good position in that matchup. Emmanuel Sanders also was huge, scoring 27 points, catching a long touchdown pass, and really, putting that matchup out of reach before it could ever really get started. It was a very, very impressive performance from the UP. Tom Brady and James White continue to be the connection that the rest of the league should be envious of. I mean, when you have a running back that is going to double dip with the quarterback, that is just sick, especially in the red zone. Anytime New England's in the red zone, the United Players are a threat. Now, on the Squad Underestimated side, I love for the Kirk Cousins to Adam Thielen connection. And Barkley and McCaffrey just continue to be what it is. Now, Josh Gordon is starting to step up into that offense, and that's making it a huge, huge plus for the squad. That being said, this matchup sets up as a very, very lopsided one. The Squad Underestimated has Barkley. I love Barkley on a weekly basis. It just seems like his production is there. And we're going to go with Squad Underestimated. I got Squad Underestimated winning this matchup 125 to 120. Alrighty, good luck to everyone, and may the odds be ever in your favor.